So the first thing I'd like to discuss, as you're open to the spawn of my level, is the use of breadcrumbs. In that we see these bodies here and blood splattered along here, and these carry on all the way throughout my level, directing the player to one of the main locations he needs to go to complete the level in itself. On top of that, we have environmental storytelling, which is another key dynamic which should be in almost every level, giving a bit of story and allowing the player to come up with a conclusion as to what's happened inside the level by himself. As we can see, we've got red enemies running straight towards the character, or our character. We've got friendlies which are clearly dead and have been absolutely massacred. And as we move forward, we'll see this throughout the level, and it's sort of, once again, I think the environmental storytelling and the breadcrumbs work really well together with the way I've used them here, as not only is it sort of a little path for the player to go down, but it's also explaining to the player that there's something on the ship that shouldn't be here. As we move on to up this hallway here, we come on to my next main point, or as I say, dynamic that should be inside levels, audio, which there should be audio playing also here, but as I say, I've not been able to fully get it working as of this moment, where I've actually made my own audio of me speaking, where this fine gentleman here, which is the only AI that's alive, gives you a little speech and basically explains that the ship has been attacked, everyone is dead, advises you to get to the armory, and gives you a bit of a hint of where you might find a key to the armory in the mess hall. As you come along, I also have added in the mechanic where you can fix these little circuit boards around the ship. So now we come down to the cantina, and we can finally pick up our key. In an attempt to save affordance, I did have point lights all throughout this level, but after speaking to quite a lot of my peers, they advised me that the lighting from the emissive materials I've made is probably enough to give off quite a nice aesthetic throughout the ship, which I do so believe now, as there's no area I've found where it's pitch black darkness, and I think it just adds quite an omnimistic vibe to the entire level. I also would like to take note of my colours choice for visual colour language, which is another dynamic inside of levels as well, as I feel that even hallways like this, where I could point out that I've also used leading lines to direct the player between all my hallways and paths of where he's going, as the lighting leads directly down, but also this nice warm yellow. I personally feel like this gives off a really dystopian sci-fi engineering vibe, and I just love it to pieces. I think the way that this room opens up is beautiful, and that the lighting just sort of contrasts around with, and also mixes in with the signage lighting as well. So now the player comes up, fixes this door with the key, and can come through his locked door. As I say, fix these as you go along if you like, it's up to the player's choice. And now we're at the final point of the level. I wish I could have fixed more issues with the audio. I don't think my scale is amazing with some of these hallways either, but I had these in mind, reminding myself that it's not just one player coming down these in reality. If this was a working ship, you'd have so many staff coming down, it would almost have to be almost like two separate corridors of one person going one way, one person coming the other, and that's why I tried to give a bit more of a thickness to say some of these corridors, as you do and such. And once again, we can see more examples of leading lines directing the player of which route to choose. In fact, actually, even in this first room, I like to think that this is quite a clear leading line, in which we have pipes coming on the left-hand side all around, almost pointing directly at the mess hall, well, nearly at the mess hall door, but directly infused into the mess hall sign, whereas the other door you're confronted with at the beginning of the level is almost an opposite indication to what Yushigu. I tried to definitely hint to the player that we were going in one direction before the other here first, but equally I like to think that if we brought it back to visual colour language, that red keypad on the door would express to a player that at the current moment that door is shut, but given that on every other door you have green keypads, I've tried to indicate to the player that there is opportunity to open that door throughout the playable experience as well. Yeah, my name's Lewis Thornton, and this is my Dead Space level.